Coral reefs are bright, self-sustaining, diverse ecosystems. They are typically located around the equator in the warm tropical climate zones. Although 70% of our planet is covered by the ocean, they only occupy a small percentage of the ocean floor. Despite their small ocean coverage, reefs provide habitats to 25% of all marine life, including a wide range of species such as crabs, starfish, sponges, and fish. They provide many services to the marine life around them and have provided the opportunity to us humans to use them and the many services they can provide.
Coral reefs provide an important ecosystem for life underwater. They protect coastal areas by reducing the power of waves hitting the coast and provide a crucial source of income for millions of people. Thousands of species can be found living on one reef. The Great Barrier Reef contains over 400 coral species, 1,500 fish species, and 6 of the world's 7 sea turtle species. One of which is the hawkbill sea turtle. The hawkbill prunes sponges that could stop the growth of coral. Dolphins also use corals for their antimicrobial properties by rubbing their bodies against coral so that they can be coated with the mucus produced by the reefs. The Coral Triangle is a coral-rich marine region in Southeast Asia that encompasses the waters between Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines, and Papua New Guinea. It is the most biologically diverse marine ecosystem on Earth. Coral reefs have an estimated global value of $6 trillion each year due to their contribution to the fishing and tourism industries and the coastal protection they provide. Coral reefs can average 15 tons of fish per square kilometer per year if they are properly managed. They are the primary source of food and protein for many coastal communities. More than 500 million people worldwide depend on reefs for food, jobs, and coastal defense. The ridges in coral reefs act as barriers and can reduce wave energy by up to 95%, providing crucial protection from threats such as tsunamis. Coral's hard, jagged structure reduced wave energy by acting as a buffer between the coastlines. They can help protect areas such as mangrove forest and seagrass beds that act as nurseries for marine animals, as well as human coastal populations. Corals are a valuable source of nitrogen and other nutrients. They also absorb harmful pollutants such as carbon dioxide. This helps regulate the carbon levels in the ocean.
The first reef-like structures can date back to 3.5 billion years ago, in which sediments layered upon bacteria films along the sea floor, creating rock-like structures. Actual corals date back to about 500 million years ago during the Paleozoic era and were most likely solitary organisms. Around 430 million years ago, a mass extinction event had occurred, wiping out most of the marine life, including most of the corals. Around 400 million years ago, corals had began re-emerging, and during this time, the first large-scale reef systems had formed. During the Middle Triassic period, around 250 million years ago, is when the stony corals had evolved. However, reefs based on these stony corals didn't start constructing until about 60 million years ago, after a warming event. And only in the last 25 million years have modern coral reefs started to form.
Looking at the ways in which ancient coral reefs responded to environmental stressors can reveal to us how modern reefs might respond to current climate trends on both short and long-term scales. The fossil record provides evidence of multiple global reef crises, as well as multiple mass extinction events. Here, global reef crises are defined as the periods of time during which calcium carbonate production in reefs worldwide was significantly reduced. Global reef crises and mass extinction events are independent phenomena and are not directly correlated. The end Permian and end Triassic periods, 252 million years ago and 202 million years ago respectively, were times of both mass extinction events and global reef crises, with oxygen isotope analyses revealing a rise of 15 degrees Celsius in sea surface temperatures within the constraints of the Permian and Triassic boundaries. Meanwhile, a sea surface temperature increase of 8 to 10 degrees Celsius occurred between the Triassic and Jurassic periods. Both of these warming events were a result of volcanic outgassing, which released gas hydrates once trapped within sediments and consequently released massive amounts of carbon dioxide. This significant increase in atmospheric CO2 resulted in increased greenhouse warming, and may have also resulted in ocean acidification, which would have acted as the trigger for the mass extinction event among corals during this period. The Permian-Triassic warming event occurred over a period of 0.8 million years, while the Triassic-Jurassic warming event occurred over a period of 0.6 million years. Accordingly, coral recovery following the Triassic-Jurassic warming event was more rapid than it was following the Permian-Triassic warming event. The first well-developed coral reefs following the mass extinction event of the Permian-Triassic period did not form until 8 million years after its cessation. Following the Triassic-Jurassic period, they were formed after only 0.5 million years, with subtropic reefs taking longer to recover than tropical reefs.
Though corals are well-developed organisms, they are still deeply influenced by many factors.
One of the main drivers of nitrogen pollution is the burning of fossil fuels. Those release nitrogen oxides into the atmosphere. Nitrogen-containing crops can be a center for denitrifying bacteria, which convert nitrate into nitrogen gas and return it to the atmosphere. The nitrogen can enter into the ocean through agricultural runoff from nitrogen-containing soils. Our systems diagram demonstrates the effect of carbon dioxide and nitrogen on coral reefs. These are two of the most prominent environmental stressors on corals in the modern day. In our diagram, the red arrows represent the movement of carbon dioxide. The blue arrows represent the movement of nitrogen, and the yellow arrows represent the indirect effects of elevated carbon dioxide and/or nitrogen. One of the main fluxes for nitrogen and carbon dioxide is the atmosphere. Nitrogen can enter the atmosphere through human-driven activities or natural processes. Nitrogen gas from the atmosphere can lead to an increased absorption of nitrogen by the ocean. The presence of nitrogen can also cause an increase in lightning-containing storms, which breaks through nitrogen and allow them to combine with oxygen and can dissolve in rain. They can be directly delivered into the ocean or then delivered by runoff from soil sediments. Nitrogen may also result in the production of acid rain. This is because nitric acid dissolves in water. An overabundance of nutrients, primarily nitrogen, begins a process called eutrophication. This leads to an increase in algae growth, which then leads to an increase in competition. Competition can be things like the shading of corals, oxygen depletion, and disease introduction. An excess of nitrogen can also lower the bleaching threshold, thus increasing bleaching. Carbon can enter the atmosphere through the burning of fossil fuels due to a human activity and through natural processes such as aerobic respiration. Carbon dioxide can enter the ocean by an increased amount of absorption. An increased amount of carbon dioxide can lead to an increase in ocean acidification and a decrease in coral reef calcification. These are due to decrease in carbonate ion concentrations. There is also an increase in acidification due to an increase in ocean temperatures. This is because there is an increase in energy from the sun being stored in the atmosphere due to the presence of greenhouse gases. The ocean's absorption of heat increases and exceeds the coral's temperature threshold for bleaching. Increased carbon dioxide also results in a decrease in productivity of zooxanthellae. This results in a loss of nutrients because zooxanthellae passes on 90% of its nutrients to the coral reefs. Many of these things altogether result in making corals more susceptible to disease and mortality, reduces the growth rates, and reduces the productivity of coral reefs.
Though fluxes in nitrogen and carbon dioxide are happening as a result of natural processes, it is widely influenced by human activities. Local human activities mixed with thermal stress are predicted to threaten 75% of the world's coral reefs. With human populations predicted to reach more than 9 million by 2050, these stresses are also set to increase. Corals that are located near the equator, which are already close to their upper thermal limit, will start to lose their mutually beneficial relationship with zooxanthellae and start to bleach if the temperature rise is even relatively low. Even once the thermal stress is removed, corals can still die, partially die, or survive, but with reduced growth and reproductive rates, and are more at risk for many diseases. After their death, corals are often overgrown with macroalgae such as seaweed, but then begin to disintegrate, lowering the local biodiversity of organisms that relied on them. If trends continue as they have for the past few decades, then it is estimated that 50% of the world's coral reefs will experience multiple thermal stress events during the 2030s. This will grow to a staggering 95% during the 2050s. In addition to rising temperatures, the increase in CO2 emissions suggests that by 2030, fewer than half of the world's reefs will be in areas where arginine levels are adequate for coral growth. And by 2050, that number will drop to 15%. However, these numbers are full of uncertainties, such as warming projections and individual corals' ability to handle effects of temperature and acidification changes. In addition, these models are under the assumption that human activities and pressure continue as normal for the next few decades.
Things tend to be misplaced, broken, or even carelessly thrown into the ocean, which can suffocate a reef and make them collapse. If we can lower fishing in the reefs, we can start save the reefs. Another way to help preserve the coral reefs is going to take a global effort. If we, as a planet, can depend on less fossil fuels, we can reduce carbon emissions and use eco-friendly fertilizer for agricultural.
Corals can also be grown in nurseries and then placed back into areas where they have been decimated, restoring the coral community. However, this would require a stable ecosystem to be ready for them. By diving responsibly, eating sustainable seafood, and lowering our carbon footprints, we can protect the coral reefs, which not only provide us with numerous economic benefits, but also we get to protect the intrinsic beauty of the coral reefs.